Welcome to Thursday Thought Leaders with Harvinder Narula on BW Healthcare World. My guest today is Dr. Sanjay Wazir, who is an award-winning neonatologist in North India, reputed for his contributions in the area of childbirth. He is considered as a beacon of knowledge, compassion, and dedication when it comes to well-being of children. Let's talk to him about his latest book called Bundle of Joy and also get some tips on parenting of a newborn and wellness of a child from a parent's perspective. So, welcome Dr. Sanjay Wazir to BW Healthcare World. First of all, congratulations for your new book.
Yeah, thank you, Ranji. It is a pleasure to be interacting with you again.
Dr. Wazir, first thing, what prompted you to write this book called Bundle of Joy? How is it different from any other book that has been written as a child care guide?
Okay, so what inspired me to write the Bundle of Joy was a combination of my personal experience as a neonatologist and a pediatrician, and my personal journey as a parent. Like over the years, I have parents who faced a combination of challenges and uncertainties during early stages of life. In fact, I am reminded of an incident. So what which clicked and and was this almost a decade back when I was in Greece for a conference on European Society of Pediatrics. So I was taking a taxi, and I told the taxi wallet that I need to go to a particular place for the conference, and he said, "Okay, what do you do?" And like a general chit chatting, and then he said, "Isn't it interesting that driving a taxi, you need to like have a license and you need to prove that you're good. And for the most important thing that nature has is to reproduce. Okay, you are actually directly on the job and you're expected to do the best without any baseline knowledge, which goes into this. And that prompted me to say, think that yes, there is a lot of kind of myths around parenting, traditional beliefs around parenting, and more importantly, the more the knowledge, more the confusion as well. So with that in mind, I over the period of time, I saw many people coming to me and asking the question, and some of the questions were more or less repetitive, and then I asked them, where did you look for the information? He said, I looked at Google, I looked at YouTube. Some of them said, I look at Insta. And I realized that there's a plethora of information in a scattered form, and but largely from a parents from an influencer point of view. None of them was actually an authentic medical guide, except for there are medical books, but for parents there were very few written by the doctors. So then I thought, like, I need to blend that clinical knowledge I had over a period of time with the with the information which is available, and with the in a manner which was kind of approach the parents in a journey throughout what they want to go through this. So it's ultimately a labor of love born out of my passion for supporting families and my belief that the informed, confident parents can create a nurturing and a positive environment for their children.
Lovely. And Dr. Wazir, books get dated. Will this book still be important for those who are going to become parents maybe a decade later from now? Because childcare is an evolving process.
So, two things that we have in mind, obviously, as I said, so once you become a parent, then, you probably become a parent again after a couple of years, and maybe third time if you, plan like that. Second, the nature hasn't changed over the science a little bit, yes, and that is what we see, that over a period of time we will probably plan to build an app around it so that it is updated more frequently, bring out another editions in future. And we are also planning to do some podcast around, which is to ensure that the people stay up to date with the latest knowledge. One, and second is that this information, even if it is is a more generic, and this is something that you tend to give every single day to other parents or other people also. So you suppose you are invited as for somebody's family dinner, and even as a non academic patient. So somebody says, oh, how are your children doing, what are they doing? So I mean, an information, when you passing on to someone else also, should be authentic and should be more science based rather than an experience based. And we all know experience is an ability to commit the same mistake over and over again with increasing confidence.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. But Dr. Wazir, you have met a lot of parents, you've met a lot of expecting mothers. What, in your opinion, is the most challenging part of parenting that you have observed?
So, I tell parents that the labor starts after delivery. So most of the people, they think that oh, delivery is process and you got to go through the labor pain, and then this is like a honeymoon which continues forever. But then they realize, okay, that the labor starts the moment the baby gets up, it cries erratically, and there is everybody, there are your mother, grandmother, uncle, aunts, who are ready to give you all kind of unsolicited advices about how the child needs to be reared, and the mother as such would get confused. So one of the common things that I see, बच्चा रो रहा है तो दूध पिला दो. Or maybe the child is crying for so many other reasons that you need to just look at. But as a person who's sitting on a chair, it's easier that कि ये रो रहा है, इसको दूध पिला दो. I don't even know the mother, I don't know even the baby, but that's how humans tend to interact. And the challenging parts which I see, okay, because they're not prepared for the parenthood, and the challenges which arise. Second, the challenge is that they have no information, so they keep on looking at information which is very scattered on internet, suddenly on the Google or this thing, which confuses them more. Then there is traditional belief systems which are even more confusing. And the problem is the traditional belief systems are there which the parents tell them to do, and when they go to a doctor or some other healthcare professional, there is an kind of a tussle. Like one of the simplest example is that हमने भी तो अपने बच्चों को गाय का दूध पिला के बड़ा किया, तो इस बच्चे को क्या प्रॉब्लम है? So that's the kind of a thing that you have to face. They have to face. I mean, we to only have to kind of. And once they grow up, there's certain behavioral issues which parents need to discipline, schooling. These are smaller issues, but we certainly think that they are day to day touching the life. And then the parents also have to go through uncertainties of ailments, they're not trained as a nurse or a doctor. Suddenly the child starts vomiting overnight. They should have at least basic knowledge of what at least not to be done at that time.
नहीं, आपकी बिल्कुल बात ठीक है सर, कि ज्ञान देने वाले बहुत लोग हैं, फैमिली, फ्रेंड्स, नेबर्स भी आ जाते हैं. Everybody has their own unique experiences, their own belief systems that have been passed to them from their parents. And what piece of advice would you want to give to the first time parents कि क्या parenting सिखाई जा सकती है, या it is something that you have to experience and go with it? What is the right thing to do, sir?
So very interesting question. So when people ask me this question, I said, hey, have you ever been to Delhi Zoo? And they say, some of them say yes, and some of them no. I said, just go to Delhi Zoo, observe some mammals there, like their families, and you will realize that child rearing is not so complicated as we make out it to be. And the children, all you need to believe the nature, you need to believe the God, and also like you need to have a patience to understand, like so it's important observing your child. So every child, 8 billion people in this world, all of them are unique. Like what I did as a child, maybe you did not do as a child. Like so your mother and my mother would have completely different experience to share. But their experience does not make it replicable across the generations and across the society. So what I tell parents is, like just observe, like your child, observe. The child would be talking to you, interacting with you in certain language, which is only unique between the mother and the baby. I mean, I just cannot understand that kind of a thing, because if the child is like, the hunger cry is different, the anger cry is different, the wet cry is different. So that observe, and you'll be able to guide. Only thing that you should do is not to make sure that you're trying to attempt to look at medicines for everything. Try to understand the process first. If the child is vomiting, like what is more important, stopping the vomiting or looking at the hydration part of it. So if they understand what is, like more understanding, then they would go out. Like as you said, I'm sure most mammals would also have vomiting and loose motions, but they find a ways to hydrate themselves and keep them healthy and going on. Like fever is not your kind of enemy. He's your friend. He's telling you that there's something wrong with your body, and if I'm your guest for a long period of time, please find out what is causing me to stay in your body for a longer period of time. So just basic sense and common sense, and parenting is not so difficult as most people make out to be. And I see many people starting with the parenting workshops and other things and giving them 5 different tips and saying, okay, that is parenting. Probably that's like too oversimplistic model.
And Dr. Wazir, how does your book cater to the diverse needs of parents from different family structures and values? Because हम जिस देश में रहते हैं, in our country, we have different cultures, and there are different understanding of how the child needs to be reared. What we see in North India may be very different from the value systems and the belief systems that we see in South of India. So, how does your book cater to these diverse needs of different cultures?
So what we have tried to make do in the book is to keep it very kind of a simple, and make it like more generic rather than giving like local advices. But we have taken into account the Indian kind of a mindset into like for example, we have a tradition called Annaprasan in Bengal, like and that the name is different, but that the same festival is across like different places in Punjab and Haryana. So there's a ceremony around starting the food. Okay, now we so my so what we try to do, like in the book, for example, for this example, Annaprasan should not be delayed beyond a point because the relatives are not available or something, because it can lead to malnutrition. So I'm okay with you starting and doing that process, because traditional belief systems must be respected for preservation of a culture, but within the framework that it does not damage and cause malnutrition, because this was one of the reasons why, like so these are some of the things that we kind of and in the books also you will see there are certain mothers tips, because at the end of the day, mothers also need to believe that they can do, and all the job is not doctors. And as a mother, I know. So at that point of time, what we tend to tell the parents is like, there is, say, for example, using a snake plant is good enough for you to like protect against some kind of an insects, for example. So these are some of the things that we have generically kind of tackled. Yeah.
Lovely. And I want to come to a few tips that I want from you for the children and the parents. But before that, there's something which I wanted to ask you, because this is a pressing need today, and it is beyond the newborns. What is your advice to parents who want to create an open and supportive environment for their teenagers to explore? Is there some tip that you have for them?
Yes, so like I was reading a book called Chanakya in Daily Life, and what it gave me a very good idea. So 0 to 5, you look at a baby, like, from making sure that he's kind of looked after, given extra care, extra love, and sometimes like to the tune of pampering. But in 5 to 10 years, you should probably work on making the child disciplined a little bit. And after 12 years or 13 years, you should make your child your friend. You just cannot dictate, because at the time, if you try to just still be getting the child into a kind of a lecture mode, or kind of like instructive mode, then the child is probably, the relationship is going to break, and you probably going to not have him listen to you. So rather than you probably having to give him wisdom out of your life, you should try to listen to his problems. See, after all, any conversation is about you, not me. If it is about me, then of course, then the conversation is dead, because the other person is not listening. So between the same between parent and the child. So if a child is trying to tell you that I may not like it, I need to understand the reasons why he's probably not liking. But I say, okay, oh no, because my father did it, my grandfather did it, so you have to do it. Like, it's probably, and with the fact that you are one side looking at a traditional value system which you have been following, and other side, the child is living in a world which is like, very open, very like, democratic. And of course, like, although teenagers do not kind of have the right to vote at this age, but they will still have a right to exercise their choices at this age. And they would probably kind of break down the communication with you. So it's important to treat them as your friend, listen to their problems, and try to be on their side rather than on this thing. Otherwise, you would probably, like, they're going through a phase where hormones are kind of disrupting them. They're going through a phase where, like, the world is changing, and they're changing from a child into an adult. Sometimes, like, a 13-year-old child को हम बोलते हैं, नहीं अब तुम बच्चे नहीं रहे, बड़े हो गए हो. And then on the other side, like, and हम ट्रीट उनको बच्चों की तरह करते हैं कि नहीं तुम like ये कर लो. तो वो कहीं dichotomous है. And the internet is giving them more information what their parents can give it. So that has to be a across the table discussion rather than an instruction.
So I think it's not about what the child needs to be told. It's about the training of the parents that needs to happen. To let go and be a listener rather than a instructor.
So I tell parents, like, your children are like an updating software. So you need to update to the new software. The software will keep changing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, let me take this opportunity to get some tips on children, sir, from you. I mean, I know you're an expert. I've met you several times, so I will not leave this opportunity, sir. Children have very sensitive skin, and they're prone to rashes, allergies, and a lot of places have pets, and the child gets allergy from pets, and many other such conditions. What, in your opinion, should parents be doing to prevent the adverse skin conditions? And if rashes happen, then what is it that they need to do to take care of that?
So when you look at, like, allergies, there are two things. One, we're talking of a delicate skin of the child, and we just need to take care of my as a newborn. And then the second is the allergies that will come differently. When you talk of a skin of a newborn, it is very sensitive. In the first 2 weeks of the life, it is half baked, and then, like, it tends to mature by 2 to 4 weeks of life, and reach the adult kind of a composition by 2 years of life. Okay, so which also means that you are probably not using the same kind of things that you're using for yourself as the child, for the child. So we need to be a little, gentle with handling the child. And many times I see, like, parents employing people for massages, like, and like, so I ask them, one of the biggest advantages of massaging is that it improves the bonding between the person who's giving the massage and the child. I said, bonding kiski badhani hai, maid ki ya aapki? Like, so if you want to say, please do it yourself, because you're going to be gentle, and the person massager is not going to like need to show you that, like, ki aap zabardasti karne se, I need more money, like, that it more harshly. So it is like so you do not damage the skin of the child. At the same time, like bathing is fine, but you could do it alternate day basis, and you also have to ensure to look at how does the baby skin respond to it. Some babies are good with the daily bathing, and some babies are like you do it with the alternate baby bathing, because water also is a desiccant. So once you do it, like it removes the layer of oil on the body, and when you need to look at, people talk about कि हम तेल की मालिश करते हैं तो हम सरसों के तेल से करते हैं. I'm like, again, one size does not fit all, like, you know, so you need to see what works for a child. So generally the traditional belief that mustard oil and even olive oil for that matter, you know, the medical literature says, and we touched it that in the book, that, like, you know, are supposedly more irritant compared to the mineral oils which are available in the market, or the coconut oil, which is the virgin coconut oil, like, you know. But if you have to do it, and oil massage is not a must. For example, if your child is having a rashes, it's not that you still want to make the skin damaged and continue with the massage, for example. Similarly, the products which are used for the babies, we need to be little sensitive in terms of the soap. For example, we are using is an alkaline soap, whereas the soaps which are meant for babies are slightly acidic. They are at the pH of around 5.5. Again, that's been touched, so that it does not destroy the skin mantle and the good bacteria which is there on the skin already. So that is to protect the newborn. You know, so if nature has given that skin mantle, it must be with a reason. So, and since they do not get dirty and you know, then don't get spoiled unless they poop on the skin or something, or they get smeared, you would probably would look at being a little gentle. Now you come to the allergies, for example. Now, unfortunately, both skin allergies and the respiratory allergy, you see, like the asthma, you know, or rhinitis, this is increasing across the world, and there is something interesting called a hygiene hypothesis, which means that on one side, you know, the more we went away from the nature, and so our body's immune system was balanced between and controlling the immune systems in the body and controlling the infections. Now, since the infections went down, the immune system has gone haywire, and it started to react against in our own bodies. So in Australia, for example, 15% of the children or adults, like, you know, are having allergies, and 40%, virtually half of the allergy, have a latent allergy which can manifest anytime in future. So that's the kind of an epidemic. In fact, in Australia, they have an unofficial campaign in some cults which saying back to farm. Put the child into the farm in the first year, so he'll have less allergies when he grows up. You know, but that's increasing, sure.
And Dr. Wazir, my other very important question that I really wanted to ask you is how and when do we check for behavioral issues like autism?
Okay, so generally then we need to see autism generally cannot be picked up before 18 months. You know, if you have to see, in the scientists have looked at you know, faces have the babies who had autism and at 12 months pictures. But as of now, the consensus is that you should probably do an MChat, which is a test which is available online free of cost for every parent, like, you know, and they don't have to pay for it, and you just need to do it a screening test which they can do it any Sunday or Saturday there at home, and it just takes 5 minutes, like, and that will is a screening test. If you have a doubt there, then of course you should go and talk to the pediatrician or the doctor they are seeing. And of course, it's the duty of the doctor also to examine the children for autism at that particular time. You know, apps are available, the website is available where they can screen for it. But 18 to 24 months, but don't attempt that before 18 months, because you may get a false high value which may be disturbing to you.
Awesome. And sir, दूसरी चीज, I was talking to somebody the other day. I was taking an interview, and a very startling, figure was given to me saying that with the level of pollution that Delhi experiences at the peak time, is almost like you're breathing the air, which is equivalent to smoking 20 cigarettes in a day. Now, if that is to be true, the children that are born today are also breathing the same air. So,
Correct.
what needs to happen? How can we protect the child from this environment other than leaving the city and going somewhere else?
Unfortunately, if there was a possibility, I would have also shifted. But then, most places there, the pollution levels are more or less the same. Delhi is bad, of course, as you said, and sometimes we touched that topic in our book called pollution, air pollution, pollution and children. So, on some days it could be as bad as smoking 50 cigarettes a day. Like, it's bad. What we're not realizing is that probably if we keep living in this particular part of the world, like the way we are continuing without checking our own behavior as adults, we are reducing the longevity of our children like by 5 to 10 years. So, which means that the child who was born and his horoscope said that he's was to live for 80 years, for example, and if he's born in Delhi, unfortunately, he'll live only for 70. So we're putting -10 right there and then. Like, so that's the kind of gravity of the situation that we do not understand as much, because we think that like air pollution only touches us around the Diwali time when there is some halla gulla, like, at that point of time, and the rest of the time we kind of, and the moment you go abroad, or to go to any of the Western countries, you will realize the difference between the problems the children have, and even the I tell parents sometimes, okay, how do you identify two children at the airport? One from Kashmir, one from Delhi. एक के गाल लाल है तो वो कश्मीर से है, एक खांसी कर रहा है तो वो दिल्ली से है. Like, so that's the kind of unfortunate scenarios that and it's not an easy solution that parents can, of course, people see, putting air purifiers at home. Of course, we must do it. If we have a chance, we should purify whatever we can do, but children also need to go play outdoors for their brain development, for their physical, and it has to be a collaborative efforts. Like, I don't know, this election, for example, no political party talked of pollution, and no, as voters also, we did not ask, okay, I'll vote for a party which will give it extra 5 years or 10 years to my child. Who's the party? None of them. Like, so everybody is talking about like the issues which may be relevant to us, and some of them may be irrelevant to us. Like, but this is something which touches my child, which I'm so caring about every single breath he takes.
Dr. Wazir, my last question to you is that what are the common infections that the child is prone to? And are there some precautions that the parents must take to prevent these infections?
So when you talk about infections, like uh, when you talk about the infections, we need to understand there are certain common infections which the children would have. These are basically respiratory infections, because they tend to go to my grandfather maybe went to school when he was 10, my father at 6, and I went 3, and now the children are going at 1 year, 2 years, because of nuclear family structures. And because they get in closer to other children who have an infection, so repeated respiratory infections is a given for children who are attending daycares or early nurseries. Okay, but you don't need to worry, because that's part of a development of it's bothersome, it's troublesome, but unless it's causing repeated air infections, just infections is not a reason for us to kind of worry about. Second thing that we need to, like, see, is because the children are exploring, they put things in the mouth, they probably they have more gastrointestinal infection, and we've covered in the book that like you probably need to focus on ORS. Even if it is Sunday, it is night, just focus on oral hydration solution, and that's good enough for you to tide over till you get to see the doctor the next day. The other common infections which, like, generally we see in older children are increasing incidence of pneumonias sometimes, like, because they're a little reckless for, like, with their respiratory care. And in summer months, you tend to see more infections related to skin, maybe pustules, because there is a sweat and you damage the skin, and then there is a pus formation there. And overall, but one thing, thanks to vaccination and improved hygiene standards, the what we see in pediatrics is that the number of infective conditions has thankfully gone down, although it has come at a cost of increasing the non-communicable disorders like hypertension, blood pressure, and other things, and also at the cost of allergies that we just talked about in a little while ago.
Dr. Wazir, I've had the opportunity to meet you several times, and each time the pleasure is even more.
Uh,
The
it's a pleasure is both ways, I guess.
with the knowledge that you have, along with the intent with which you operate, makes it, makes me believe that the doctors like you are the ones who can create a positive impact in the society. So glad that you've written this book, which can be so valuable to the young parents. And also, Dr. Wazir, thank you so much for speaking to us today on BW Healthcare World. It's been such a pleasure.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you, Niralaji.